Coming up on Find Your Voice, nearly 6,000 Iowa kids are in foster care, yet we still don't have enough homes for them. We're breaking down what the research says about stability, belonging, and how music and connection can help Iowa kids heal. Every child deserves safety and a chance to find their voice. This is Find Your Voice, a podcast created for music educators who believe that teaching music is about more than notes on a page. Each episode, we'll talk with educators, leaders, and musicians who are shaping the future of music learning, one voice at a time. Whether you're conducting a choir, leading a band, or teaching little ones their very first notes, this is your space to connect, learn, and be inspired. Find Your Voice is sponsored in part by Dr. Mom Music and Central College. For the month of November, Dr. Mom Music is bringing you something special for the podcast. I'm excited to highlight music educators in our state who have a special connection to adoption, because November is National Adoption Month. In our family, we were a foster family beginning in 2018 and ending in adopted 2 kiddos. And our journey continues to be one that only God could provide. And it is a special connection because music is a huge part of our journey. I was just having a conversation last week with one of our therapists that is part of our journey. And I said, it's really crazy. Both of our kiddos are very musical. I'm just so thankful. I would, of course, love our kids no matter what, but it's really cool that they love music so much and that music is a part of their hearts. I have 4 kids, and all 4 of our kids' music is so much a part of their lives. It was just like one of the first times when I heard our foster children at the time, when I heard them start to sing, I'll never forget when they first started one of their favorite songs. And I just turned and it was like in awe of their beautiful voices and how organic it was for them, just supernatural for them to sing. And I was like, oh my goodness, Lord, thank you so much for giving this opportunity. And it was just super surreal. And I knew that connection was something that was very important for our family. So this is something that I believe is something that I want to share with all of you today. Music is part of our story. When I was in high school, I knew that eventually I wanted to adopt children. And it was just something that was on my heart. And my parents had thought about adopting. I'm an only child, and my parents had thought about adopting when I was a little child, and then they just never did. I don't exactly know why, but they just never did. And so I think even when I was little, I thought I loved the musical Annie, the movie Annie. And let's talk about how much of a connection Annie has had on all of our lives. Those 1980s, 1990s women, like Annie has had such an impact on all of our lives. But adoption was always a part of something that I wanted to do, because I believe and I know that there are way too many kiddos out there who need a home. So when my husband and I got married, I had talked about, that was something that I wanted to do. And he was on board with that. Maybe not as on board as I was, but he was open to it. And so when we had our biological children, this was probably in 2010 or 11. I remember having a conversation with a friend back in Johnston who was a foster mom, and I had coffee with her and asked her about her journey and what all it took to become a foster parent. I remember her saying at that time it was really important for her to not disrupt the birth order. And I thought, okay, our kids were like 3 and 2. They were super, super young. And so we just kind of pushed pause on that at that moment and thought, this will be something that we do down the road. And so we waited. Then I felt like I had a third child, and that was my PhD. That was my dissertation. Birthing a dissertation was very similar to having another child in some ways. Those of you that have gone through that process know what I'm talking about. So then after I finished that chapter of life, the next thing, really literally, I was like, okay, chapter closed. Let's move on with life. And we started doing the classes to become a foster family. I remember talking with our 2 children at the time, our 2 biological children, and they were a bit hesitant. I remember them saying, will you have enough love in your heart? Will you have enough room in your heart for more kids? And that was really hard. And I said, Mom has a really big heart. I have 4 chambers in my heart. So that's 1 chamber for each of my children. And I still believe that today. So I have 4 kids and 4 chambers, so that works out pretty well. But I never want any of my kids to feel like they're shortchanged. And that was hard initially. And I think that I hope that my biological children know that they're not shortchanged for anything. During the foster care classes, we learned a lot, and we learned that it was not going to be an easy journey. We learned that there's a lot that goes into becoming a foster family. And we learned that there are all kinds of families that become foster families. It was a very interesting 10 weeks, I believe, where we'd go every week for 3 hours to these meetings and learn all of these different scenarios that could happen, learn about different effects of trauma. Became CPR certified, mandatory reporter certified, first aid, trauma-informed parenting, all of the things, TIPS, that was the certification. And you became certified through 4 Oaks here in Iowa. And it was intense. It was a lot. A lot of the training I had already, I feel like I was kind of prepared as a teacher, and yet I don't think you're ever fully prepared. And I know you're not prepared. Even though you take these courses and you're a teacher, you're not prepared until you have your first placement. So, we did respite to begin. So that means we just did weekends for other foster families. And that was a really great way to start. We were a busy, busy family, just the 4 of us. We had show choir and marching band and soccer, baseball and competition dance and all the things, and church and gems and cadets and everything. And not to mention, we both worked full time. And so it was a lot. And I remember so many of our friends saying, like, what are you doing? Like, this is amazing that you're doing this. And they were so supportive, but also like, you are so busy. Why? How are you doing this? And I just was like, there are so many kids out there. We feel called to helping these children. And we have the means. We've been given a big enough house to do this. We need to help. This is a way that we can help kids in our state. And so we were doing this respite. And then COVID happened, and that changes everything, of course, for everyone. And then in March of 2021, I got really sick and started having extreme vertigo and would have these attacks and would get like nausea and vomiting and all the really nasty stuff, and found out that I had Meniere's disease and vestibular migraine. That was spring break of 2021. And it was bad. It was scary. Actually, I had a doctor tell me that I would have to go on disability. And I have a job that I absolutely love, and a job that I will not give up. So that was not going to happen. And so I started finding all the doctors I could and doing all the research. And I got on all the Facebook groups, and I discovered that there were medications actually that were not FDA approved, but are from a compound pharmacy. And I have been doing a lot better. And right now I'm even seeing a physical therapist for vestibular migraine that is helping a lot. So it's been amazing. Actually, on April 5th, 2021, I was scheduled for an MRI to make sure that I didn't have a tumor in my brain, because they wanted to rule that out to make sure that it wasn't cancer and just Meniere's disease. But it was April 5th, 2021. I remember that day very vividly. I remember exactly where I was. And I was sitting at our kitchen counter doing my Bible time, and I got a phone call from a worker and wondering if we could take 2 kiddos for full-time foster care, a brother and sister. And the little girl was at a place where she could be adopted. The little boy was not. They were on 2 different tracks. They had 2 different sets of workers. The little boy was still doing visits with his biological dad. The little girl was, like I said, ready for adoption. So it was very messy, to say the least. Double everything. So we had double meetings, double everything. And I remember saying to Shane, like, I just got this phone call, and what do you think? And he was like, you were just diagnosed with this. Like, is now really the time? And I said, if not now, then when? God's going to get us through this. And it's the faith of a mustard seed.
During the year 2020-2021, I worked on Read Through the Bible in a Year. And in my planner on April 5th, I had written down that I had a headache and I was tired that day, and I woke up at 4 a.m. with a terrible headache. I also had written down that I was scheduled for an MRI at 12:10 p.m. And I received a phone call from Courtney that day about Macy and Liam. I was scheduled to read Psalm 66. I have circled that I read verses 16 through 20, and I want to share that with you. Come and listen, all who fear God. Let me tell you what he has done for me. I cried out to him with my mouth. His praise was on my tongue. If I had cherished sin in my heart, the Lord would not have listened. But God has surely listened and heard my voice in prayer. Praise be to God, who has not rejected my prayer or withheld his love from me. There have been a lot of mountains in this journey. It started with the faith of a mustard seed, and only God has moved the mountains and continues to move mountains.
So we prayed on it, and I remember calling Courtney back and saying, could we meet the kids? Could we do like a weekend respite and not let the kids know that there was an option for having them come stay with us as a long-term placement? And we were not going to say that to our kids either. We were just going to say that it was a respite situation, because that's just where we were at that moment with my health. And so that's how it started. And they came, and it was like the middle of April. And we have pictures from that weekend at a park, at two parks actually, because Tice had a baseball tournament in Indianola, and their maternal grandparents live in Indianola. And so we were at a park. The kids are all so little, and that's how it all started. And then we sat Ella and Tice down, and we said, okay, what do you think? Could they come and stay with us? And Ella was like, yes, 100%. And Tice was pretty quiet, as Tice is. He's just kind of quiet. And he was like, yeah, I think so. I think that would be okay. And so we had to really kind of be diligent with him, like we are a lot with him, to make sure that that was really okay. And it was. And so we had them come another weekend. We did like 2 or 3 more weekends with them just to get to know them. Then we were planning a trip to Florida. We had already planned that trip. And so we went, the 4 of us, at the beginning of June. And that was really great. It was a much needed trip just for the 4 of us too. I'm really glad that we did that. It was really fun. It was great. Yeah, looking back, that was a lot of fun. I remember having a conversation with one of my best friends saying, I feel bad, like the kids are wanting to come and be with us, but we have this trip planned. And she said, Sarah, you need to just go and enjoy that time with your oldest 2 and not look back. It's okay. And she was right, as she so often is. And then we came home, and then the kids joined us. And, that first summer was a lot. It was really hard. For many reasons, many of which were out of our control, were out of our kids' control. Our foster daughter at the time had an allergic reaction to a medication that caused a lot of issues. In hindsight is 2020. I wish that we would have known about that allergy so that we could have done more for her right away. But God is good, and we got through it. We almost lost her, but we didn't. And I'm so thankful for that. So our story has all of these ups and downs. And through those ups and downs, I've learned a lot. I think the biggest thing I've learned is that I have to go to God in prayer. I've prayed so much. I don't think I've ever prayed so much in my whole entire life. And I continue to pray just all the time. In any spare minute I have, I pray. Because I wouldn't get through it any other way. And even now, like just a couple weeks ago, we tried some new things and some new diagnosis, and I see like these little breakthroughs, and it's just like, wow. So you just have to keep fighting for the good. And that's one thing that I tell my two youngest, that they were handed trauma when they did not deserve it. No child deserves to have adults let them down when they are babies and toddlers. No child deserves to have an adult choose something else over them. We will keep saying yes. And our oldest two said yes on adoption day as well. And we will keep saying yes. And we will keep fighting to say yes. And I continue to say that adoption is not just a one-day thing. And just a few weeks ago, I said that I will keep fighting to help you. That I will not rest. I won't rest until we solve these issues, until we can continue to get on the right path. That's what we do for our family. And so adoption is not just done on one day. And that's what we do for any member of our family. That biological, foster, adopted. So that's what November is for me. It's a month of being grateful. It's a month of remembering that through adoption, we are all adopted into God's family. We are all adopted. And we all remember that we aren't walking this life alone. So a few years ago, I did this new project. Music educators, elementary music educators especially, you all are very aware of John Feierabend, one of my personal friends, John and Lily. I've brought them to Iowa a few times and to do a conversational solfege and first steps trainings here at Central College. And John has his books that he has put together with some of his students. I love all of his work, and so I decided to do some of the books as well with my students. A few years ago, in 2022, I did this project with my elementary music ed students, and we partnered with our art department here. My music ed students wrote a song and wrote a story with a moral, and then partnered with an art student to do all of the illustrations for the book. My book is titled Together We'll Be, and the illustration is by Amelia Brown. So Amelia grew up in Central Iowa and graduated now from Central, was a theater and art major, and was involved in many shows here at Central. She worked in the costume shop and designed wonderful, just gorgeous costumes, unbelievable costumes, and was very grateful for the opportunity. Amelia loved illustrating children's books, and this was a lifelong dream of Amelia's. Amelia said, "I couldn't have asked for a better author to work with," super sweet, "or a story to bring to life. I hope this book brings comfort and joy to the Van Woordhuizens and other families like theirs." So that was very nice, Amelia. Thank you. And you can read my bio. That's no big deal. You can read that sometime when you purchase this book. I'll tell you how to do that later. The Van Woordhuizens became a foster family in 2018. They hope to spread awareness about the need for foster care reform in Iowa and throughout the United States. There are too many children living without a forever family. Get involved. www.iowafosterandadoption.org or www.ifapa.org. On May 30th, 2023, Macy Joy and Liam Allen became part of the Van Woordhuizen family forever. And there's a picture of our family and Amelia. Okay, so here is Together We'll Be. When I think about my happy place, I know right where I belong. It's not on a sunny beach with the waves hitting the sand, and it's not on a great big mountain. My happy place is with my family. This is the story of how we came to be. Now I have to tell you, this picture is an actual picture that my son, Liam, drew in kindergarten. And Amelia took a picture of the picture that Liam drew and put it in the book. Isn't that cool? That's me. Doesn't that look like me? When I got out of the car, my tummy started doing flips. I was so nervous and shy. My brother and I were at a new house with new people again. We brought in our box of belongings and tried to be brave. The lady with the curly hair gave us each a high five and said, "Come on in." There were two big kids with huge smiles that made me grin. They showed us our new room and said, "Let's go play." The man with the brown beard smiled and said, "Come meet our whole family. Our 2 dogs and 2 cats like to play with kids." The dogs said hello, and the kitties meowed, "Hi." Soon this new house became a place to play, watch movies and eat popcorn, swim, ride bikes, sing, dance, play baseball, read, and try new foods, even mushrooms, Brussels sprouts, and shrimp. We knew we were safe and loved. We got our own rooms and didn't have to share with each other. And look at those pictures. See, those are actual pictures of our family. Amelia had asked for pictures so that she could draw us, and then she drew our actual pictures. Just amazing. We asked the lady with the curly blonde hair if we could call her Mom. And we asked the man with the brown beard if we could call him Dad. We started learning more about Jesus, and Mom created a new nighttime prayer, including lots of people who love us. At church, we learned about God's love for us. We also really liked the cookies, lemonade, and games after Sunday school. We liked our new family, but we didn't know about the future. Mom and Dad said to focus on what was in front of us. Mom and Dad shared that we would go to a new school and make new friends. This was our 4th new school in 4 years, but we decided to give it a try. We couldn't remember our past teachers' names, but we loved to learn new things. Reading was my favorite, and my little brother liked math and recess. We liked our new school and made friends super fast. Mom and Dad said we could try new things. I tried softball and soccer. I loved dance and tumbling, and I started taking piano lessons. My brother really loved getting to play soccer, football, basketball, and baseball. We loved hearing our new family cheer for us. We learned a lot about being a family. Mom and Dad kept talking about using our words and using kind words. This was hard because my little brother drove me crazy sometimes. We've also learned that asking for help is hard, but it's important to ask a caring adult for help when needed. My brother and I liked to play a game. Mom called it the what if game. Sometimes we worried about the future, like, what if we don't have enough money for groceries? Or what if the power goes out? Or what if we have to leave and go to a different place? So Mom and Dad decided we didn't need to play that game anymore. Instead, we focused on the tasks in front of us because that's what was in our control. Once or twice a month, we had visits with different workers from the state who were there to help keep us safe. They checked to make sure we were healthy and worked hard at school. Sometimes my brother and I didn't like it when they came because it wasn't fun to sit and talk. We would rather play outside. Mom and Dad communicated with our workers a lot, and we had a total of 29 workers. That is true. This whole book is true. Sometimes it was a lot of work for them, but they said, that's adult work, not kid work. It was like a part-time job. I'm not kidding. Time flew by. Birthdays, holidays, time with family. And pretty soon, Mom and Dad called for a family meeting. A worker was there and shared that we wouldn't be able to return to our biological parents' care. We were sad that our biological parents had adult problems to take care of, but wondered what that meant for us. The worker asked if we wanted to stay forever with our new family. We said yes. Mom, Dad, and the big kids with big smiles gave us hugs. And of course, Mom cried. She was so happy that our family could. She said, "I might not be your tummy mom, but I will forever be your mama." And she sang us this song. We choose you, and you choose us. Together we'll be a family.
You know, I wrote Together We'll Be on a night when my kids needed a little extra reassurance, a reminder that they were safe and never alone. If you have a child who needs that same comfort, scan the QR code in the show notes or on the podcast episode 5 cover and grab the book on my page. And here's the best part. Every single dollar goes to help Central College music education and art education students attend conferences and help them grow as future teachers. Thank you for supporting this podcast and for investing in the next generation of teachers.
I hope that you will purchase this and read it to your students, because I can guarantee that there are kids in your school that are foster kids or have been adopted, and there are very few books that deal with foster care and adoption, and they are dealing with lots of big feelings, lots of big emotions, and they feel very othered. And I wanted to write this book so that they would feel seen and heard, because all kids need to feel seen and heard.
In 2024, there were about 5,900 children ages 0 to 17 in foster care in Iowa. 2,427 referrals for foster homes were made, compared to only 1,734 licensed foster families. Emergency shelter placements increased due to shortages, 337 in 2024. By February 3rd, 2025, there were already 169. Placement instability remains a challenge. Many children experience 3 or more placement changes. With each of these changes, we must remember this is a new family, a new school, and a new set of rules. Why it matters is because stable foster placements reduce trauma and support academic success. Foster family recruitment and support remains a priority. Community programs, including music and the arts, provide stability and connection for youth in care. We need people to get involved. Four Oaks is the main foster care group in Iowa that does trainings and placements. Please help to support foster care in our state. IowaFosterAndAdoption.org. Also, please check out IowensForAdoption.org. This is run by two of my friends, Diana Lang and Rusty Johnson. They are doing some incredible work for adoption and adoptees in our state. Find Your Voice with Dr. Mom is produced, edited, and engineered by Dr. Sarah Van Woordhuizen. Music composed by Dr. Sarah Van Woordhuizen. To book with Dr. Mom, email dr.mom.music4@gmail.com.